I get very excited this time of the year. The days are getting longer and the first sign of the sun gets me all in a flutter. Learning from the mistakes of the past, I no longer rush to get seeds in the ground in spring. There's plenty of growing months ahead for that. The itch still needs to be scratched though. Growing some herbs indoors, though not the optimal time for growth, can still be productive. Speaking of winter, thank you to the community for submitting their winter garden pics and clips. If you're interested in supporting the channel and joining the community, there's a link in the description. I'm going to try growing basil and parsley indoors over the winter this year. Both of these diaries were started at the end of the autumn in the UK. Step 1 is to sow the seeds. Fill up a tray with a seed sowing compost. Sprinkle your seeds over the surface and cover with a small handful of more compost. This keeps the seeds moist and aids germination. If your seed compost is dry, give it a water. Put this on a windowsill in a cosy room. It doesn't need to be in sunlight until it's germinated, just kept warm for now. Your seeds should start germinating over the next week to 10 days. The little seedlings will push their way upwards over the course of a couple of days. Now you can move them to the sunniest location you have, either on a windowsill, a patio door, or wherever you're not going to trip over it. Ideally somewhere you can keep an eye on them. If the top of the compost looks like it's drying out, give it a misting or a light water. Over the next 6 weeks, both the parsley and the basil will grow on well, but slowly. There's far fewer sunlight hours at this time of the year, and they're also limited further by being indoors. Make sure the compost does not dry out and turn the tray every few days to stop the seedlings leaning too far to one side. The only danger there at this stage is overwatering. The basil seedlings have a couple of healthy leaves each getting into week 9 and are ready to be transplanted. I'll let the parsley grow on in the background as that's not fussy about staying in the tray a little longer. You can transplant these into one pot, and basil doesn't mind growing close together. I'm going to sow into individual pots just for the ease of filming, and the methods are the same either way. Fill a pot with a potting or all-purpose compost and make a hole in the centre with a pencil. Using a small spoon or your fingers if you're very careful, ease a seedling out of the tray by lifting it from underneath. Be gentle as it can take a little practice, so if you're nervous try it first on a weaker seedling. You should be able to lift out the seedling with a small clump of compost around its roots, like so. If this will fit into the hole you've made, then drop it right in. If not, gently remove some of the compost until it will, being careful not to damage any roots. Add a little more compost to the pot if needed and gently press it down around the stem to keep it upright. You could easily get 4 to 5 seedlings in a medium-sized pot, so carry on until you have as many as you need. Choose the strongest seedlings to transplant and look for those with the thickest stems, the most leaves, and the ones which are growing upright. Give it a water afterwards to help the roots settle in. The parsley is now on week 13 and has grown into a mini forest. We can leave it in the tray as it is, but I'm going to transplant it into pots because it will be a little neater and I really don't need this much parsley. The basil is just growing on in the background and needs very little attention. You transplant the parsley in the exact same way, but we'll have 3 plants in each little pot. Fill the pots, select and untangle your chosen seedlings, make a hole in the compost and transplant them in. Give it a good water to help the roots settle and pop them back on the sunny windowsill. So we're all caught up now. The basil needs a haircut, and this is always a scary part of a plant's life cycle. We want leafy growth and to encourage a bushy plant rather than a tall one. To do this, we'll tell the plant to stop growing upwards. This is done by removing the top of the plant, where the hormones promoting upwards growth are stored. Cutting the top off a young plant is going to feel wrong, but trust me, it will be fine. Cut the stem above the second healthy pair of leaves. The cutting can be used, by the way, there's no point in wasting it. The plant will then grow new shoots at the base of each of the topmost leaves. Over the next few weeks, the basil is growing new shoots and fresh leaves, and the parsley is settling into its new pot. As it's cooler, the soil shouldn't need watering often, and you shouldn't get any pests indoors which will cause any damage. And around 20 weeks after sowing, these two herbs should be ready to start harvesting. So the question was, can I grow herbs indoors over the winter? Yeah, definitely. It'll give you something to do while it's cold and wet out, it'll add some flavour to your winter dishes, and maybe a good use of some old seeds which you would otherwise have thrown away. Just don't expect the kind of growth you're used to in the summer. I hope you enjoyed this video. I upload every week, and the best way to stay updated is to subscribe. Here are some other videos from the channel which you may be interested in. I hope to see you all again soon. Thank you and happy growing.